All right. Now, for more, we're going to bring in retired NYPD Detective Mike Sapriconi, as well as Minnesota congressional candidate and former journalist Dalia Lakidi. We also have in studio with us all morning our very special guest, former journalist and senior policy analyst for CFACT, Melanie Collette, as well as Middle East expert and senior counsel at the Lawfare Project, Gerard Faletti. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Mike, I'm going to start with you, though. This new angle that was released yesterday, what does it tell you about the encounter?
Well, it shows the rhetoric, ladies, that was going on between the people out in the streets and between the ICE officers. This is a common everyday thing that law enforcement faces every day, listening to all this garbage from the far left about how they have to do their job. They're not doing their job correctly, to leave them alone. Everybody's American citizens. Nobody seems to realize that these law officers are American citizens also. We're only out there legally doing what Congress has made into law. But this harassment that goes on and on, this builds tension. And this is brought on by the politicians on the far left who are just spewing this rhetoric to make sure that people get in everybody's faces and form these problems. These are things that are simple. If people just went along and understood the rule of law and complied with what the officers asked, these things would not happen.
You know, that is such common sense. That's clearly why we've got an issue there. A big part of the story has been the way that a lot of media outlets and the politicians there, the governor, the mayor, they've twisted this narrative. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke about that this week.
Many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before, and everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
So, Melanie, after you hear that and you see what's going on, what are your thoughts?
And Vice President Vance is right. These people should be ashamed of themselves, not only for jumping to conclusions, but for outright lying about what went on here. And then when you see the body cam perspective, which is the perspective that counts, he was the one who was in danger. And I also don't think that people understand what self-defense means. Like, people are saying, oh, he wasn't that hurt, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's the point. When you're defending yourself, the point is to avoid getting hurt or killed. So, but I hate the rhetoric, and I particularly hate elected officials and people in authority making these kinds of statements and not tapping down the rhetoric instead.
Yeah, we've also seen in response to this, though, there's been violence against ICE agents that we have seen increased as well in the coming days that came after that. Dalia, what does that tell you about the situation now and how the uptick in violence that we have seen?
Facts don't matter anymore, and that's what the leadership of our city and our state wants exactly. Last night, Minneapolis residents did not have enough sleep. They were either in the streets of Minneapolis or, like us, watching social media, watching the news. We're so worried that what happened in 2020 will happen again, and most probably it will. Social media posts were circulating. Even texts were sent to everybody about today's massive protest with links to the locations and what to do. This is very dangerous, and that's why we have to be very, very careful. The leadership wants to shift the focus from all the fraud cases in our state to what's happening right now. Last night, we were hearing the helicopters circulating in our neighborhoods. We were listening to different statements demonizing ICE, demonizing the police, and this is very dangerous. We're at cross point, and we feel like this is a ticking bomb. We could see our city burn again in no time.
Yeah, Dalia, you bring up a really good point, and that's the way that the Minneapolis leadership there has been handling this, taking the, as you say, changing it, taking everyone's attention, away from the fraud investigations there. So let's quickly listen to what the Minneapolis mayor actually had to say about this and how he's handling it.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. And now somebody is dead. That's on you.
Gerard, I'm going to bring you into the conversation here. I can see you shaking your head. What does this kind of language tell you?
Well, it's dangerous rhetoric. He's playing to the cameras and putting people at risk because this is the type of language that empowers people, encourages them to act illegally. We're not talking about protest. That's not the right word. What we're talking about is an inculcation of violence. We're talking about people who are vigilantes, attacking law enforcement officers physically because they hear from elected officials saying, we don't want these people here, so they listen to that and take action. And that's what's really dangerous. They're not calming the situation. They're refusing to obey the law. They're refusing to enforce federal immigration law, and because of that, they're encouraging people to act in an illegal manner that gets them killed.
So, Mike, I want to bring you in because we're learning that the deceased woman, Renee Good, was reportedly part of something called Ice Watch, Minnesota Ice Watch. And that group trains activists to specifically and deliberately interfere with operations, including using their vehicles to block action. So when we watched these videos, which, of course, the mayor said was garbage, the excuse that it was self-defense, says that's garbage, says that immediately before he's seen all the videos. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz repeating that. But what kind of threats do these groups pose to law enforcement? They're out there and they're organized.
Tremendous threats. I mean, this threat apparently starts, this activist group starts at a grammar school where her child goes to grammar school. And she became part of that, engaged in that group of activists through the school. And this is part of our education system that's gone astray. I mean, and you look at what Walsh is saying, you look at what this mayor is saying. These are two ignorant people who are calling for judgment before they even understand what's going on. They're both building up animosity within that community in that state. Walsh has problems. Him stepping down was a great thing the other day. And this guy, Fry, he doesn't even know how to speak to people. How do you engage people in understanding that law enforcement is doing a job to protect them when you berate law enforcement the way he did? And we need to look at these schools and these situations where these activist groups are built. Where's the money coming from? Who's starting these activist groups? Why is the far left so against police and law enforcement? This is a disaster. If we don't have strong law enforcement in our cities, we have no cities, we have no state, and we have no country. All these men and women are doing are enforcing the laws set forth by Congress.
Dahlia, in the backdrop of all this, your state is in the middle of a massive fraud investigation that the mayor would like to see way behind him. We saw the House Oversight Committee hold a hearing on this this week. What can you tell us about what's being uncovered and how people are reacting in Minnesota?
What we're seeing is damage control. Even Walt's decision not to rerun because he knows there is no way that he's going to win his reelection. But the thing is, they're trying to play the victim card, which is the tactics of the left, starting from Ilhan Omar and so and everyone else. Now we, as the Republicans, or we as the concerned citizens that and taxpayers are being accused of being anti-immigrants and Islamophobe and racist just because we want answers.
Oh,
we
yeah, you always have
the right
to pull out racist,
to know.
You know? I mean, that's got to be the one pulled out no matter what.
And they accuse me of being racist. I'm an Arab American. I'm a Muslim. I'm a woman. And I'm not white. But that's the thing. We have the right to know who knew what, who did what, and why nobody took action for all these years. We've been screaming fraud for years, but nobody listened to us. And you know what? It's sad, but I have to say, we're kind of happy, though, that America's focusing on the fraud in our state.
That's right, Dahlia. Yeah, it's been going on. Investigations going back to 2015. I mean, this isn't something brand new. It just kept on getting bigger and worse.
Yeah. All right. Michael Sapriconi, Dahlia Al-Akidi, thank you both so much for joining us. We're going to see you back next hour. And Gerard and Melanie, you guys are sticking around, so you're going to be with us all day. Lucky us. All right.